Now let's head to Houston, where Olu Phillips has been covering the CERA week all week long, and it ends today. Hi, Olu, how has it been there in Houston?
Good morning. It's morning. We're still a bit grumpy, waiting to join the early sessions for this morning. Good morning to viewers and wherever you are in the world. Good morning or good afternoon to Nigeria.
So what has the conversation been there? Listening to some of the things that are being discussed, there's the issue of talent, also consider the human resources in the oil and gas sector. But what are the major highlights of conversations at the CERA week?
Okay, so I think, let me start like this by saying that the intersection of policy, politics and finance and technology as it relates to energy didn't used to be as significant as it is today. So first of all, over 70 countries, leading countries had their national elections, and that has led to significant change in energy and climate change policies. So here in Houston, the conversation is very straightforward. Countries are beginning to. It seemed like we all woke up and realized that the future of the future of carbon markets, for instance, is shaped by the interplay between voluntary and compliance market. Voluntary and compliance market meaning that it seemed like we didn't do our homework very well globally. Everybody just thought that there was going to be a magic wand or one fell swoop instruction and everybody's going to align. Countries are beginning to shift. Like I said, over 70 countries had their national elections. And what that meant is that governments are beginning to come in to ask themselves, what is really this whole conversation about? So it's either about climate change, mitigating climate change, sustainability, but how about the fact that some of the technologies or some of the conversations around mitigating climate change isn't as sustainable or isn't as affordable as it should be? So, everybody in this conference is looking or looks towards the United States of America to signal a new direction, and that has happened. For instance, the US wants to resurrect, if I use that word carefully, their mining industry. And they're not just mining. The government of Donald Trump has released or has asked senior members of his cabinet to be at this conference, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Interior, and all of them are here discussing how it is that if you want to do business in mining, if you have technology, if you have, of course, the US want to win the AI war, come into the United States of America and invest. And that alone has triggered a lot of conversation around what national governments should be doing or want to do as far as all of this conversation around climate change and energy transition. That conversation really has waned. It's slowing down. It's being reviewed. It's being reformed. AI is playing a major. We've seen that. In fact, there was this session I attended where seven innovators were introduced, and these guys, 6 of them actually. And these guys have developed a technology where methane data solution to help cut emissions, boost profits, and meet businesses. Can you imagine a conference like this where even insurance companies are attending because premiums are increasing and they're looking at the nexus between how all of these policies of energy transition is affecting investments, and if you do not have the right investment climate, like the SA Minister for SA to the President on Energy was saying, that there isn't any sufficient data to suggest that mitigations against natural disaster, for instance, can be measured in such manner that if you're coming to invest in clean energy, you can take that data, mine that data, and use it for your bottom line. That does not exist. So everybody's practicing what I could call indigenization in terms of what works for them. And I think because the US, which is the biggest spender and the biggest director of this orchestra, is conducted right now, be it by the chief conductor, Mr. Donald Trump, countries like Namibia, South Africa, Morocco, Nigeria, are all having a very strong representation here in the US and making cases for themselves. And it's a case of, you know what? For those who are members of the faith-based community who would say, to your tent, O Israel. So it seemed like everybody's going home and saying, you know what? What was it that I neglected so much? And mind you, Ini, this is where the challenge is. the fact that you discuss transition energy, green energy, carbon cuts, carbon credits, and all of those climate mitigation and all of those strategies, government, did it in any way reduce the demand for energy? It didn't. So it meant that in Europe, for instance, during the winter, you need gas to heat your homes. During the summer, you needed same gas or electricity for your air conditioning system. So at what point did any demand slow down for energy? Africa is noted here at this conference to be a continent that will have the highest number of youth population in the years ahead.
Okay,
what preparations are we making, really?
Yeah, so as the conference ends, because we attend these conferences, they're slated for the year, you check your calendar, you have to be here. And of course, the President Donald Trump seems to have changed the tide, even as you said
completely.
So what is the takeaway from this conference now? Is it, as you said, everybody go to your country and explore everything or anything that's available for you, as long as it will give you electricity or energy? Doesn't matter the consequences or the global impact and the messages which have been preached even before now. Is that what it looks like participants will be going home with from the CERA week?
I hate to say a blatant yes, but a yes with a caveat. The caveat and the big caveat is that even the US acknowledges that technology is playing a very big role. I just told you how even there was a representation from the steel industry where they're galvanizing some technology to invest $2.2 billion in a system or in the technology that allows a replacement of different kind of steel, but with the same kind of quality. So even for the construction companies, you have something going for you in terms of technology. AI is a big deal. The question to really ask is, when you come back home at Nigeria delegates, for instance, you ask yourself, what is the Nigerian need? And how do we solve that need? We have grid challenges. There have been technologies introduced here on how to safeguard your grids using robots and using all of those AI technologies. What really works for us? What are our population? We hear that a lot of our population members do not have access to the grid power. What are we actually doing? Now, the biggest takeaway is the fact that anything you choose to do as far as the energy transition conversation is concerned, there is money, there are investors, there is technology, and there are the people to consume it. There is the finance corporation to finance it. Unlike when it looks like there was a blanket sign off on some of these spendings and say you cannot put money on fossil fuel. Nigeria needs to take advantage of its huge natural resource. Go back into mining, do it right. Go back into exploration, do it right. Go back into any kind of technology you can use to provide energy for your people. And I believe the president and as led by the SA Energy here, Oluvan High, have been making a very strong case for that. I just want to see that being matched with massive action. And you can imagine what will happen if, for instance, a state like Lagos is only 24 hours power with a power mix or energy mix that suggests that if you're living, for instance, in the Keja area, you have this kind of power. If you live in the areas of Lekki or Badagry, you have this kind of power. Everybody's energized. The economy is energized. The balance sheet becomes well balanced between assets and liability. And you can be sure that if you develop your national assets, your natural resources, they become your national asset and they become your strongest negotiating instrument on the balance sheet and for any kind of negotiations you may want to. So this is the best time to do business everywhere in Africa, especially in Nigeria, which proudly I represent.
Yeah, I see that, Olu, representing right well there, but you represent better if you can challenge those government officials to come back home and practice what they've heard there. And learn from President Trump, Nigeria first, Let's use our potential, as you said. But thank you so much, Olu Phillips, Channels Television correspondent all the way in Houston there, covering the CERA week, which ends today.
Thank you.
All right, now let's take a break. When we come back, we'll head straight to the market for intraday numbers with Will Ebonzo. Stay with us.